Hey everyone, how are you doing? Thank you so much, Jacob, for the introduction, and thank you so much for organizing, but also Career Foundry in general. Thank you so much, Career Foundry, for having me, for inviting me to speak with you all today. I am super excited to be talking with you all on Social Media Day. Not so much about social media, but about ourselves. Today we'll be humanizing digital marketing to help supercharge our design journeys. I'm really, really excited about this. I love talking to beginner designers. I love mentoring beginner designers, but this topic in particular is a great intersection of all of the things that I'm passionate about, of course, design, of course, mentorship, but I also run a digital marketing agency on the side, and a lot of things that I've learned from that experience, I'm going to be bringing to this conversation. But anyway, let me formally introduce myself. As Jacob said, my name is Miguel. I am a UX strategist. I'm an educator, and I'm an entrepreneur. I take great pride in representing the best borough in New York City, Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn in New York. And like Jacob said, online you'll find me be referred to as Miguel Makes. That is my personal brand name, if you will, which we'll be talking about a little later on. I work for New York City. I'm so proud to be from New York that I decided to work for the city. And currently I work in the Department of Marketing and Tourism as Director of Product Design. And right now we just rolled out a really exciting campaign to start to invite people back into New York, and you could check that out at nycgo.com actually. So it's been a busy last couple of weeks for me, but I'm excited to be here with y'all today talking about content and personal branding. I also teach, like Jacob said. I'm a mentor at Career Foundry. I've taught as an instructor in the past. I love UX education. I'm really passionate about it. And more so than that, I'm passionate about helping beginner designers come up in their respective domains and really break in and have great careers. But I also make videos. I have a YouTube channel. It's Miguel Makes. You can check it out. I haven't been as consistent and as diligent with my YouTube stuff recently, but you can check me out on YouTube. And YouTube is really what started my personal journey with content. I had put out some things here and there. I had a Medium publication, but it wasn't until YouTube that I really started taking this stuff seriously and seeing the benefit, not just from another perspective, from my clients and their businesses and what I've done for them, but it was the first time I started seeing the value of content for me personally. So a lot of what I'll be talking about, it comes from my experiences making YouTube videos. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about personal branding and content strategy specifically for beginners. So right off the bat, I don't know if I have some folks that have joined me before for one of my talks. If you've joined me, show some love in the chat. Let me know that we've connected before. I love knowing that there's people that I've connected with in the past at my talks. But just a fair warning to everyone, my talks, I like for them to be as honest and as real and as straight up possible. I will not be mincing words, as Jacob gets a little nervous there in the background. This is about giving y'all honest, real advice to be as helpful as possible. So with that being said, let's be honest from the very beginning about something, about what this is about. Personal branding and content for new designers is not about followers and likes. In fact, we won't even be talking about followers and likes and that sort of thing here today, on purpose, by design. Personal branding and content for new designers is about career and opportunity. When talking about followers and likes, to be specific, we're talking about engagement, right? So engagement is important. It is. I'm not saying it's not important, but in this context, we're not going to be using engagement as a measure of success. Instead, today we're going to be using engagement as a measure of progress, simply progress, nothing more. Let me be clear from the very beginning about something else. This isn't about becoming a UX influencer. In fact, I'm not a UX influencer by no means. This is simply about how you all can stand out as new designers by leveraging content and social media. And like I said, I'm no influencer. That's not my goal. And to be very honest with you, I don't have time to be a UX influencer that or a design influencer. That's a full-time job in itself. Similarly, I'm sure everyone here will understand, coming up in design, whether as a UX designer or a UI designer, that's like a full-time job in itself, right? So this isn't about adding another thing on top of the long list of things that you already have to do in order to successfully navigate your UX journeys. This is simply about how you can supercharge your career by setting yourself up for opportunities. So how has that worked out for me? So in terms of career and opportunity, I'll give you 3 very specific examples. On YouTube, YouTube has been the #1 way that I have gained speaking opportunities. I've had people reach out to me because they tell me, hey, Miguel, I watched your video on YouTube about this, that, and the third. We loved it. We thought it was great. We'd love to invite you to speak at our event doing this. And then from there, that opened up a new professional category for me of speaking. I never would have thought I would become a speaker. In fact, I'm going to say something publicly that I don't like to say publicly. That is part of the reason why I don't even use my real last name on social media. I'm actually pretty private, and I'm going to share with y'all something about me that's very, very private. Growing up, I actually used to have a stutter. And so it was really difficult for me to speak in front of people, put myself out there. And YouTube is a big part of that story. YouTube was the thing, the vehicle, the mechanism for which I was led to speaking engagements and speaking opportunities. So I'm not telling y'all about the views that I got from YouTube videos. I'm not telling y'all about my subscribers. I'm telling y'all about opportunity. But I can tell you about subscriber counts if that's what you think is important. I just recently reached 1,000 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And that may not seem like a lot compared to other channels on YouTube, but that's like a huge number to me and myself, thinking back to when I didn't have a channel. And if you were to tell me that I would have a channel, I would have been like, you are absolutely out of your mind. So we can talk about engagement, we can talk about those metrics, but we're not focusing on that. We're talking about career and opportunity. LinkedIn. LinkedIn really helped supercharge my teaching career. I met a lot of students that I've been mentoring on LinkedIn. In fact, let me tell you something really funny, or at least I think it's pretty amusing. When I was starting to speak to Career Foundry about being a mentor, I, by that point, had connected with so many students that were in Career Foundry already. And when it was my interview, and I'm forgetting the person that I interviewed with at Career Foundry when I was interviewing to become a mentor, I said something along the lines of, so I'm already mentoring so many of your students. So I feel like I'm already a part of the Career Foundry family. So I think this just makes a lot of sense for me to do it now officially. And then I'm now a mentor at Career Foundry. So that came from LinkedIn. Now I can tell you about my 8,000 network on LinkedIn, but that is not what's important. It's about the opportunities that came from LinkedIn. And lastly, just to really hammer this point, let's actually talk about metrics on Instagram. Let's actually talk about a follower count. I have only 1,600 followers on Instagram. That is not a lot. That is not a lot at all. It's actually pretty low, right? Regular people that aren't influencers sometimes have more than that. But Instagram is where I launched one of my latest initiatives named Inclusion Design Lab, where we champion inclusive design methods. And our goal is to make it a standard in design. So I wouldn't have been able to launch my latest initiative if it weren't for Instagram. I went on live. I had so many people join on that live. And then when we officially launched it, there was so much excitement, and that came from Instagram. So like I said, again, personal branding and content for new designers is not about followers and likes. It's about career and opportunity. Okay, so let's actually jump into this stuff. Today, we're going to be talking about developing a personal brand. We're going to be talking about developing a content strategy. We're going to be talking about a few social media best practices. Then I have a really, really special surprise that I'm so excited about. It's going to make all the sense in the world once we get there. I promise you, stay tuned to the end. This is completely a ploy to get you to rock with us for the entire hour. I'm telling y'all, unapologetically so. And then afterwards, I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Divya, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. But I do want to preface this by saying that there's no way we're going to cover everything that is needed to be covered in order to have a successful personal brand and create a successful content strategy. This is just an introduction. So I'm putting my number here publicly for all of y'all to text me with questions, any things that you need help with when it comes to content strategy and personal branding. Now, this is not my real number. This is a community number. Community is a platform for people who want to build a community over text. So feel free to send me a number. It'd be an app on my end. For you, it's a regular number that you're texting. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to continue the conversation with me using that. Now, let's jump right in. Number one, developing a personal brand. Okay, so what is a personal brand? Brand is not a logo. Brand is not a color palette. Brand is not imagery. Let's focus on the brand piece of personal brand first, okay? So we'll cover personal brand in a second, but let's first talk about brand. Brand is none of those things that I just mentioned. Brand is actually the way that a product, a company, an entity, or sometimes an individual is perceived by those who are experiencing whichever one of these things it is. In other words, someone's perception of what is being presented. And the best brands have a story to tell. And that story affects others' perception of that thing. In this case, we are presenting ourselves. But how? Well, it's going to sound cheesy. I'm not saying this to sound cheesy, but it starts with us, specifically our story. The problem that I see from my students and my mentees is that most designers are trying to advertise themselves simply by saying, hire me, I am great, trust me, believe me, I'm great. Instead of telling the story of why they should be hired so others can understand what it is exactly that makes them great. So when we're talking about personal brand, we're talking about your story, your personal story that you are packaging up, not in a logo, not in a color palette, packaging up as a narrative that can help you not only stand out, help you not only organize how you want to position yourself in this field, but help you actually hopefully, the word that I was looking for, land an opportunity like the ones that I was able to. So let me be very, 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 very clear. There is so much that can go into this, but one of the main things to consider is that it starts with you. We're talking about your story, every one of you that's tuning in, and all of us are different. So it surprises me, and I'm speaking now as a hiring manager at NYC and Company, where I work for the city. I'm a hiring manager. I'm in charge of making sure that the UX team and the product team is growing, and I have the privilege of having the final say on hiring. And so that means I oversee the entire hiring process. And one of the things that I see is that all UX designers are starting to look and sound the same, which is so weird because we're all people that have different stories. So that has shown me that we are having a hard time as an industry or with beginners trying to get a real story out of them. So hopefully these next 30 minutes now will help you do just that. So now Know that your story will evolve over time. This is our story. We are the authors. A story that changes over time is not indicative of a lack of direction. It's indicative of growth. I say this so that you can go into these next 30 minutes not feeling pressured to have to come up with something super brilliant on the first try. Okay, so let's jump right in. Writing your story. I'm gonna give y'all 3 key ingredients. As I share these things in the next few slides, I want you in real time right now to start writing some of these things down. As much as I like engagement in the chat, I love for people to be shouting out things that they're enjoying in real time. I actually want you to take your computer or your notepad or your iPad or your phone or your pen and paper and write down some of the things that relate to you for what I'm about to go through. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through 3 key ingredients, and then I want you to write down things that resonate to you or that apply to you for each of these 3 things. All right, so let's start with number 1, your background. Let me tell y'all what this means. So this means one of 3 things. The most obvious when you're thinking about your background is career changes, right? Your previous career. So for me, I used to be a developer. So that is what I'm going to jot down. I used to be a developer. Okay. So now when we're thinking about our previous career, we want to think about transferable skills. Now, as a developer, it's pretty direct. I worked in tech, I worked with designers, so there's a lot for me to say. For people that had a previous career where it's not as directly applicable to UX or UI or design in general, you want to think about transferable skills. I'll give you some examples. I'm sure there's somebody here on the webinar, and if this applies to you, I want you to let us know in the chat. Any teachers here, right? Any teachers? Write in the chat if you used to be a teacher. You might think, how can I write my story from teaching to UX? There are so many skills that you practice as a teacher that have prepared you to be a UX designer. I'll give you an example. As a teacher, you practice empathy with your students. As a teacher, you have iterated on your lessons over and over and over again. As a teacher, you have designed a product in your lesson plan, in your curriculum, in all of these assets that you are building for your students. I am saying this as an educator. There is so much to compare from teaching to UX as transferable skills. No, you weren't designing a product. No, you weren't doing usability testing, but you were testing with your students. So there's so much that you can say. So think about these transferable skills. Or let's say you were in finance. In finance, you practice synthesizing data and identifying patterns. Or let's say you use HR. So you practice understanding the needs of people. As an HR professional, you manage people's pain points. You manage conflict. You iterated as well, right? So all of these things all of these examples are ways for you to brainstorm how you can leverage a previous career to UX. The great thing about UX is that it's so wide ranging that it's easy to think about how you can leverage your story via the idea of transferable skills. Number 2, general skills and talents that you have that could be of value in design. Like, let's say you're a great communicator. I personally love people. I love talking to people. I love talking in general, in case you haven't noticed. So that is one of the things that I've leveraged in design as a UX professional. Communication skills, maybe that applies to you. Third, general hobbies or experiences that could be of value in your specific design domain. So let's say you were an artist, let's say you were a photographer, or let's say something more specific. Let's say you were a volunteer at a nonprofit where you practice some transferable skills. Think deeply about your background. I want everyone to be writing things down, not just in the chat, but also in your notepad, because you're going to be using this stuff in a little bit. Simply put, when we're thinking about our background, another way to summarize this is thinking about your why, thinking about all of the things that you've done that has led you to UX, UI, design, or tech in general. So for me, I'll give you an example. for me growing up, my parents were immigrants in this country, or are immigrants in this country. They came from Mexico, and when I was growing up, they didn't speak English, and a lot of the services that they had to use from New York City, they weren't well designed. They weren't in Spanish. They were only in English. So my parents couldn't use them. So I would help them use these services as a kid for myself, when it was them that were supposed to be signing me up for school, for, elementary school, middle school, or whatever it may be, or signing me up for whatever city service we needed to sign up for. So that experience taught me that city services need help. And that's why I'm in GovTech. That's why I work for the city. That's my full circle why. So think about yours. Think about your background, previous career, general skills and talents, and hobbies, experience, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we're still on slide 1. So now it's your turn. I'm gonna pause for only 30 seconds, and I want you to think about your background, and I want you to jot some things down. I'm gonna stretch this slide out a little bit. I want you to stretch this out. There was multiple parts to that first ingredient, so we're still on the first ingredient. But thank you so much for being engaged. That shows me that you are paying attention. Okay, so now that you've written some things down, now let's move on to ingredient number 2, and there's going to be multiple parts to ingredient number 2. Okay, so ingredient number 2, your UX role. Now, I find that a lot of beginners have a hard time, or your UI role, whatever fits you. There's a lot of UX here, but it applies to UI designers in general. So here, let's just say your design role. What are you? Specifically in design, there are many, many roles, and I want to break down these roles really quickly. So you could be a generalist or you're a specialist. As a generalist, you may be a UX designer, a product designer. As a specialist, you may be a UX researcher. You may be a UI designer. You may be a visual designer, an interaction designer. You may be a UX writer, a UX copywriter, a UX content strategist. Now, Career Foundry has an awesome curriculum because it gives you the foundation that you need to pursue any one of these specializations that I mentioned, or a generalist role like a UX designer or a product designer. You may not be able to answer this question yet, and as a beginner, you may lack the experience to know which one of these things you want to do. But if you already know what you want to do, then here, jot it down. So I want you to take 30 seconds to jot down what it is that you want. And I want to give you a tip. A lot of people find that they have to pick one, and they're afraid to pick one because they're stuck with it. This is what I was talking about when I said growth. This isn't lack of direction. We're just growing. This is our story. It'll evolve all the time. I was a UX researcher. I was a UI designer. I don't know what I was. Now I'm a UX strategist. That's what I call myself. So what are you going to refer to yourself as? And you could also combine some of these. So you could be a UX designer that is focusing on research. You could be a product designer that is focusing on interaction design. You could be a UX designer that focuses on content strategy. You could also mix and match these things. So just think about what is your role. And now ingredient 3, and this will also have many parts to it. Ingredient 3 is your UX mission. This is the one that gets me the most excited. So if you hear me, if you feel me being extra peppy, that's because this one is my favorite. So your UX mission. Now, I'm not talking about, big missions that we may care a lot about, like climate change or that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your mission in the industry as a UX professional. Now, it could be that, but I'm referring to something a little smaller. So your specialization is a part of your UX mission. So you may specialize in design systems. You may specialize in a specific medium like AR, VR. You may specialize in a specific concept like accessibility, a specific lens like accessibility, inclusive design. So think about your specialization. That's one way to think about your UX mission. Another way to think about your UX mission is by thinking about the industry that you want to work in. Maybe you exclusively want to work in the nonprofit space. Maybe you will only want to work in the health and wellness space. Maybe you want to work in the finance space. Now, quick tip. A lot of people tell me, Miguel, I want to work in fashion, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself. You're telling me to focus down, but I don't want to pigeonhole myself. Now, I don't believe that there's anything such thing as pigeonholing yourself, because one of the things that we learn in UX is that when you design for everyone, you design for no one. So making yourself the ideal design candidate for everyone means you're making yourself the ideal design candidate for no one. So I do believe in niching down. But let's say you don't take me up on that. There's a way that you can niche down and not limit yourself. So there's always a way to think about the higher level industry category. So instead of thinking about, let's say, fashion, you can think about the higher level industry category like finance, lifestyle, So instead of fashion, you can think about the higher level industry category, lifestyle. You can do that for any industry. And if you want me to help you think about that, you can send me a message. The other way that you can think about your UX mission is by thinking about your goal. So there's two ways to think about your goal. You can think about your career goal, or you can think about a mission-based goal. So a career goal could be something like become a UX instructor, become a UX mentor, or become a UX manager, or become a lead UX designer or something like that. Lead a UX team at some point. Write this stuff down if it resonates with you. Or you might have a mission-based goal. Like maybe your mission-based goal is to make design more inclusive. That's why you're here, right? For me, it was make city services more usable for diverse audiences. That was me from my background. So think about what your mission is here. And you may not have one, and that's okay. I'm giving you all of the ideas because it'll resonate with someone. Everything won't resonate with everyone, but some of this stuff will resonate with a few people here and there. Or maybe your mission is to champion UX at startups. Just think about your why, and all of these are ways that you can think about your UX mission. All right, so now we're gonna pick up the pace just a little bit. So I'll stretch this out for 10 seconds only, but make sure you're jotting this stuff down. Think about your specialization, or maybe you have an industry that you've identified already. Maybe you have a goal in mind. So at the end of the day, it all starts with you, your story. Now what? Now what do we do with this? Well, we needed to do this in order to think about the next section. But before we move on to the next section, I want you to think about this. Your story in a sentence. This is something that I made up. You won't find it on Google. So this is my way of referring to an elevator pitch. So you have all of these ideas, you jotted down all of these notes. Now let's organize them. This is simply a tool to help us organize all of the components of our story. You can also use this in branding assets like your homepage of your portfolio, et cetera, et cetera. So before I give you some direction on how you can create your story in a sentence, let me show you my story in a sentence. Hi, my name is Miguel, and I am a UX strategist specializing in inclusive design and design process, and passionate about digital equity and GovTech. Now, notice specific things from what we just talked about in my story in a sentence. My name is Miguel, and I am a role. What's my role? This could be UX designer for you. This could be UI designer for you. For me, it's UX strategist, specializing in inclusive design and design process. And I'm passionate about digital equity, one of my missions, and GovTech, my industry. So I mixed and matched the various components of my story in a sentence. But I didn't use everything. One of the things that I could have included is my background. I just don't think it's necessary for me at this point, but as a beginner, I use my background all the time. So it might have sounded something like this. My name is Miguel, and I'm a developer turned UX strategist. I could have also said, I'm a UX strategist with 5 years of experience, of development experience. There's different ways that you can word this. You could say, hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm a teacher turned, hi, my name is Dan, and I'm a teacher turned, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can think about all of the different permutations of your story in a sentence. But now it's your turn. I want you to think about taking your role, taking the things that you want to specialize in, the things that you are passionate about, industries, maybe a medium, maybe consider your mission, whether it's a career one or whether it's a more specific goal, something that's a little grander, like making design more inclusive or whatever it is. And the thing about this is that every person's story in a sentence will be different, but you need to think about this story in a sentence before we talk about social media best practices and hashtags and all of that stuff. All of that stuff doesn't matter and if you don't if you don't hone in on what your story is. All right, so if you're still a student, you can say that. Hi, my name is Sharon, and I am a UX student with experience in marketing. I am passionate about I'm sure Sharon, I'm sure you're passionate about things in general. Maybe you can include that there to try to provide some direction, but you can totally say that you are a UX student. In fact, my story in a sentence at some point had UX student in it. There's no shame in that game, but I do want to say something. This is more on the motivational side of things, but you're a UX designer. You're just early in your career, but you're a UX designer. So claim that. You're a UX designer. I'm a UX designer, whether you're in training, whether you're 9 months into your boot camp, whether you're a month out, you're a UX designer. So claim that. You're totally in your right to claim it. Okay, cool. So let me keep going here. Now, one last task that I'm going to give y'all. I want you to think about 3 words that you want others to think about when they think about you, or when they are talking about you, or when they are reading about you, or when they're on your portfolio, or when they're watching a video that you made, or when they're even just looking at you. What are 3 words that you want others to think about when they think about you? So let me tell you my 3 words. My 3 words are, I want people to think that I'm very direct. I want people to think that I'm very real. I want people to think that I'm very simple. There's a reason why my slides are the way that they are. I'm a very simple guy. There's not much to me besides design, government, and education. There's not much else here. But I mean that as a joke. But even my presentation, I want it to be an extension of my person, of my personality. And that is one of the things that I prioritize, is simplicity in every aspect of my presentation. So much so that my deck is reduced to the message, to the core message, which helps with that direct word that I want people to keep in mind, which helps with the realness that I want people to feel when they're experiencing one of my talks. So I want you to think about, what are your 3 words? Maybe the 3 words are passionate. Maybe the 3 words are intentional. Maybe a word is analytical. Maybe a word is fun. Maybe a word is casual. Maybe you want people to think that you're unapologetic, or that you're all of these things. So think about 3 words that you want people to think about when they think about you. Okay, now, an honest note on being a designer of color. There is a heaviness when you're thinking about your story as a designer of color. I know it because as a person of color, I have felt it. You think about finding a better sounding version of your name. You think about changing the way you talk. You think about the ways that you can be seen as being more professional, more likable, because you fear being judged unfairly. It's real, and I get it. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm addressing it head on. And my message to designers of color out there who are thinking about their story is a simple one. My message is, do not change a damn thing. It's true. There is data out there that supports some very ugly stuff. But you know what? The truth is that if they don't like the real you, they don't deserve you anyway. And if they don't like the real you, you don't want to work for them anyway. In fact, I promise you, the more you are unapologetically, the better you will feel in your career. So That is my little call out there. And that is developing a personal brand. So I'm going to take a quick pause here. How's everyone feeling? Let me know in the chat if you are still with me, if you are pumped, if any of this stuff is resonating with you. Let me know, because if you're not feeling it, then Jacob, we might as well just call it an end to the night right here. But if you want us to keep going, let us know in the chat. Show us some love. All right, cool. So let's keep it going. Let's go on to the second section, developing a content strategy. So another preface here before we move on. So if your personal brand is about your story, content is about telling your story. So you're telling your story through content. Content is how you can stand out. There are many things that you can do to stand out. Developing content is only one of them. Content is also highly, highly, highly underestimated. When my students or my mentees say, hey, how can I stand out as a new UX designer? I always say content. And I want to say maybe only like 10 of my students have ever taken me up on this. So that's good news for you. There's not a lot of competition here for content when it comes to beginners. In fact, I would go as far as to say that content is the resume of the future. Think about it. All you do all damn day is consume content. You know who else does? Designers, employers, hiring managers. So content is a great way to get your name out there. And when I said that this stuff is not about followers and likes, but rather career and opportunity, this is what I meant. By putting yourself out there, you put yourself in a position where an opportunity can come to you. Otherwise, you're always in the default state of being a new UX designer or a new designer in general, which is that you are always chasing after a job. But content immediately increases the chances of something potentially coming to you. But wait, Miguel, I promise you, I believe you, I trust you, I hear you, but I'm just not sure that I can. I'm nervous, I'm shy, I'm a beginner, I don't have a lot of expertise or experience. Why would anyone want to listen to me? Look, I hear you. I've heard all of this so many times. I've been talking about this for a long time. So there are two things that I can tell you. First, by saying things like no one will listen to me, you're already making it about numbers. You're immediately quantifying your effort. Don't do that. This is about value over views. In fact, you just need one hiring manager to see your content, potentially click through, potentially end up on your portfolio, and potentially generate an opportunity. Second, when you say you don't have expertise or experience, so no one would want to hear what I have to say. Okay, but there is value in your story. You're a beginner, you have a story, and there is value in that. I'm sure there's also some cheesy life lesson in here somewhere, but we are talking about content. So now the question becomes, how? I believe you, I'm with you, but how? How do you develop content to tell your story? Now, you might think about platforms first, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. We are going to do something audacious on Social Media Day. We're going to cancel these out. We're not thinking about platforms right away. The audacity to slash them out on Social Media Day. You might also think about format. We're also not thinking about format right now. First, we want to think about what we want to share. Don't think about a video. Don't think about TikTok. Don't think about any of that. We want to start with ourselves and our story and what we want to put out there. So 3 ideas: your background, your progress, and your expertise. So like before, my slides are very minimal. So I'll put up a guiding slide, but there's many points under that. It's about what I'm saying verbally more so than what is on the screen. So the first ingredient is your background. This will resonate most with those career changers, but one of the things that you can talk about in content, whatever shape that takes or wherever you post it, is your background. Find ways to make connections between your career and design. I'll give you some examples. If you were a teacher, you can launch a series about how teaching helped you become a UX designer. So you could be like the UX of teaching part 1, or you can make, if you were a barber, you can make a series like what cutting hair taught me about design, part one. This is a great idea, especially if you're fully leveraging your background in your in your design journey, in your UX journey, in your UI journey. Were you an interior designer? Talk about the aspects of the interior design process that relate back to UX design or UI design. For everyone else, talk about a relevant experience that informed, contributed to, or inspired your UX journey, like mine did for me, that experience with my immigrant parents, or anything related to your story from your background. Write about it, record about it, post about it. This is an idea. Now, I want you to jot down some ideas. Because I'm running low on time, I'm just gonna keep powering through, but I hope that one of those ideas resonates with you. You can start generating some ideas, and of course you can text me if you're having some trouble brainstorming. Okay, ingredient number 2, your design progress. Talk a lot about the design process. We're going to talk about your design progress. This applies to everyone. But first, to those who are signed up to Career Foundry, to those that are in a boot camp, to those enrolled in some kind of UX program, there should be no reason. Don't tell Career Foundry that I said this. Jacob, mute me for all Career Foundry employees. There should be no reason why you don't put out a piece of content at the end of every week reflecting on what you learned that week at Career Foundry. Not only are you getting a UX and UI design education here at Career Foundry, you're also getting content, basically free content. Post about it. I'm not saying copy and paste it, take a picture of it, and do something illegal. I mean, reflect on what you learned, and at the end of the week, post about it. This week at Career Foundry, at my boot camp, we learned this, that, and the third. To the self-taught designers, the same thing, except you have another interesting perspective because you had to actually look this stuff up. To the ones that have already completed a program or have completed a self-taught journey, if you're continuing to improve your skills, you should reflect on that continued growth journey. Create a growth challenge for yourself and document that challenge. One of my UX students did this so flawlessly, and I swear she started a movement. Did you participate in an organized design challenge? Did you attend a UX workshop or whatever? Write about it, reflect about it. So put out content about your progress and how you can continue to improve. Now, I was gonna ask y'all to write down some ideas, but again, because we're short on time, I'm gonna skip right through this and continue to go. I was also gonna do this thing about, you shouldn't just post reflective content at the end of the week. You should post content in real time. And I was going to take out my phone and post on my Instagram and all of this. It was going to be a funny moment, but we're going to skip that for the purposes of time. And now, your design expertise. Ingredient number 3. Now, when you feel ready, you can start talking about what you feel comfortable in regards to design concepts. This is 100% speaking to your UX role, your UX specialization, your UX mission. If you're focusing on UX research, talk about that. Start a series on the things that I've learned for UX research, part 1. Are you passionate about design systems? Write about it. Design systems for beginners by a beginner, part 1. If you have a specific medium, AR, VR, AR for beginners by beginners, what I learned about AR, VR as a beginner, part 1. There's so many ideas that you can come up with, and I have ideas up the wazoo. So text me and I'll help you come up with them. Besides the fact that I hope your story and your case studies reflect your UX goals, content is another way to not only articulate these things and not only brand yourself with these things, but also it's a great way to showcase your expertise when it comes to these things. And to be clear, I'm also referring to industry. So maybe you can say, let's say if you want to work for a nonprofit only, that's your goal. Maybe you can do something like top 5 nonprofit websites when it comes to UX, or top 5 websites with great UX, or whatever it may be. So content that relates to your design expertise, your design goals, etc. Again, I was going to have y'all do this, but I'm gonna keep just moving on. Cynthia, I love what you just said. I love what you just said. Thank you for sharing. Now let's think about format first, not platform. Let's think about format now. So article, blog, audio, carousel, images, video. There's so many formats. I would think about the format before I think about the platform. The platform is one thing, but the format is everything. So, oh, that was a good line. Somebody remind me of that. I'm going to tweet that. So, article, blog. Of course, you can think about Medium, but don't think about that yet. Maybe you're a great writer, so doing a blog would be easy for you. Maybe you're a great speaker, but you're shy on camera. You could do a podcast. Maybe you have great design skills and you love putting things in like little tutorial format. So you could do carousels. Carousels are something that you could post on Instagram, but you could also post them on LinkedIn. If you're great visually and you just want to take pictures of your UX journey and document your journey, then do that. Or video. You can do them on YouTube. You can do them for LinkedIn. You can do them for TikTok. You can do them for Instagram. That's why we don't think about the platform. We think about the format first so that we can think about what we feel most comfortable with and then think about distribution afterwards. So for me, for example, I love, Cynthia is killing it right now. I love, link my channel at Miguel Makes somewhere. For me, I love talking, I love communicating ideas with people, but I'm also very visual with my hands and I get very excited. So video made a lot of sense for me. Maybe it doesn't for you. I also want to give you some examples of some people that I feel have done this well. So Julia, she is one of the founders of Students of UXD. She came out with this amazing series on YouTube named Design Diaries. It was awesome. One of my really great students, Katie, came out with a blog where she shared tutorials and advice. It was awesome. She generated a little bit of a following because of it. There's another example that I'm blanking on the name in real time, two students created a podcast where they invited people, and I was on their podcast, and they told me something extraordinary. They were like, Miguel, we created this podcast just so that we could invite professionals on topics that we want to learn ourselves. Amazing. So you can get very, very creative with it. All right, cool. Now, let's think about platforms finally. So once you think about the format, now we can think about platforms. So video can go on YouTube, or you can do TikTok videos or IG Reels, but you want to get more specific. Do you want to do longer videos or shorter videos? Do you want to do more informative videos or more fun videos? Then you might want to decide to go to YouTube for the former and maybe IG Reels for the latter, or TikTok for the latter. For blog, you can self-host one, or you can create a Medium publication, or you can post content on LinkedIn. They have the ability where you can create articles. For audio, you can think about a podcast, or you can think about Clubhouse. So these are some examples of how you can think about going from format to platform. Now, let's think about scheduling. So we have these 3 buckets of content. So we're developing our content strategy. I gave you all some ideas for how you can come up for content as it pertains to your background, as it pertains to your progress, as it pertains to your expertise. But when are we going to post this? This is what I recommend. Your background, you can post maybe a couple times a month. Your progress could be daily on Instagram or little videos, but I recommend definitely at least at the end of the week. And by that, I mean you develop the content maybe on Sunday for that week, and then you share it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then your expertise, perhaps a couple of times a month. You want to balance this out. This could easily become a content calendar. So you see how quickly we can come up with content ideas with an entire calendar because we thought about our story and all of these ideas first, whereas people want to reverse engineer this process, and that's incorrect. This is the same process that we use with our clients at Rita when we're developing their digital marketing strategies. So that was number 2. I know we have 9 minutes to go. I don't know if the program, the big marker thing, is going to close this out in 9 minutes. I hope not. But Jacob, you can let me know at any time if that's going to happen. So if it won't, then I'm going to keep powering through. And if it's okay with everyone, I'll go over a few minutes, not too many. I am so sorry. I have so much content that I wanted to give y'all. I didn't want to shortchange y'all at all. There's like these talks that I see that are like a bunch of setup and a bunch of excitement, and they're like, now sign up to my personal course where, you know, and it was like a huge waste of time. I'm giving y'all everything here. There's no part 2. So yeah. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so developing a content strategy, done. Let's move on to number 3, social media best practices. Before we go into this in detail, I want to give you some general thoughts, some general thoughts. Number 1, I recommend people create a design-specific Instagram account. If you are going to use Instagram, if that is one of your vehicles. But even if it's not your vehicle as a content creator, even if it's just your vehicle as a consumer or as a networker, there's a huge UX design, UI design community on Instagram. So just make an IG account. The reason why this is because you don't want to use your personal Instagram for professional purpose, unless you really want to be your authentic self. But for me, I personally wouldn't want, people that I'm engaging with professionally seeing my personal and my private life. So that's why I recommend, maybe drawing that line. But again, that comes from my ethos of being very private online. So maybe that won't apply to you, but that's just a friendly recommendation. This is a more objective recommendation. TikTok and IG Reels should not be underestimated. Consider the opportunity in these new mediums. They are being super juiced up by the algorithm because they're new. You may have noticed that Instagram changed their interface to put IG Reels in a more prominent position, or even Shorts on YouTube. They're closer to where your thumb will click because they want you to engage in this content. Instagram wants to put Reels in front of your face. So the algorithm is tilted in that direction. In fact, I've gotten more views on IG Reels than I have gotten on all of my YouTube videos combined. I don't think that's true, but I like that hyperbolic point, and it kind of sends a message. So let's keep it there. Next, Medium publication. Consider the organic reach potential on Medium. I feel like this is highly, highly, highly undervalued. Medium is popping for organic reach. In fact, I haven't been very consistent with YouTube, and I noticed that certain YouTube videos have continued to get views. And I'm going to tell you why. I always replicated my videos in around the middle of my YouTube journey. I started replicating each of my videos as articles. And at the end of the article, I linked back to the video. All of the videos that I did that, where I replicated it as a Medium post, and at the end I linked back to it, are the ones that continue to get views because of that funnel, because of that reverse traffic. So Medium is great for organic reach. And now, this is the main part of this section, a major key. I'm not going to talk about Instagram. I'm not going to talk about Facebook. I'm not going to talk about Twitter. I'm not going to talk about TikTok, Clubhouse, whatever new platform there is. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn. The organic reach on LinkedIn is crazy. That is why I'm referring to this as activity. LinkedIn, you might think, is simply a job platform. It is not, and people need to stop thinking about it as such. It is probably no longer a job hunting tool. In fact, if you go to LinkedIn's homepage on their website, they don't say, sign up, this is the best place to find a job. They say, welcome to our professional community. LinkedIn is now not that different from an Instagram or a Twitter or a Facebook. Also consider the fact that LinkedIn is a search engine. there's a really high chance that a recruiter or a future employer will see your LinkedIn profile before they see anything else. We make our resumes so pretty. We spend so much time on our portfolios, but I guarantee you, if you have a LinkedIn profile, they're probably going to see your LinkedIn profile first. And more than anything, LinkedIn is also a content platform. In other words, it's a great place to share content and get noticed. And the organic reach is crazy. Organic reach basically means that if you put up a piece of content, traffic will be generated. People will get to that piece of content without you having to put money behind it. So people are being exposed to your content, even if you didn't pay for that to be boosted, as an ad or something like that. I'm super simplifying for those that are not, super into the whole digital marketing world. But that's essentially what that means. LinkedIn has been more beneficial to me than any other platform. And that is whether we're referring to native content on LinkedIn. So that means content that you host on LinkedIn, like an article, or content that you link through LinkedIn. Like if I create a post on LinkedIn and then I link out to a YouTube video, whether for native content or shared content, linked content, LinkedIn has still shown me really great results. So let's get into some best practices. These are some of the best practices that we can talk about for LinkedIn, but they're super condensed. If you want more best practices, I'm more than happy to share. I love sharing LinkedIn best practices. I super love LinkedIn. But some of these best practices are going to be applicable at other places, like Instagram when I talk about hashtag or whatever. So LinkedIn profile tips. Let's start with your profile, and I'm going to show you mine as well in a second here. So profile. Let's start with your profile picture. Obviously, very important part of your story. Please keep in mind, for whoever needs to hear this, LinkedIn is a professional platform that can help you find a job. So make sure your picture looks like, professional. Here are some profile picture guidelines. Make sure it's a picture of your face. I've seen candidates apply for one of my jobs and I go to the LinkedIn and it's like this weird picture. No, you're out. Make sure it's a headshot, no selfies either. Make sure the lighting is good, AKA that I can see your face. Smile. I don't love smiling on pictures, but I try. So smile. Make sure you're dressed professionally also. Notice I didn't say formal. Remember consistency. Make sure you use the same headshot everywhere so you're super memorable. All right. And as UXers, we care about feedback, right? I don't super love the idea of this website, but there is a website called Photo Feeler where people can give you feedback on your photo. It's a little weird, so I don't super recommend it, but you'll find it in some recommendation hubs. All right, another profile tip. There is a specific setting for when you're looking for a job, so you don't need to find looking for a job in your headline or in your name, which I've seen, which has just blown my mind. You're wasting prime real estate. Don't do it. Just turn on that you're looking for a job. It's a setting there on purpose because people are doing this and they're hurting themselves. It's having a counter effect as opposed to a positive one. So you don't need to write in your headline seeking new opportunities. We will know that you're seeking new opportunities. There's no need to say that. Okay, your headline. Keep in mind what I said earlier. LinkedIn is a search engine. So everything that you incorporate in your profile is feeding the algorithm of the search engine. So in your headline, include things that will help your goals. The main thing is that it's a data point. So think about it like that. Okay, so you don't have all the space in the world, so you can't write too much. You are limited to a certain character count, but you do want to think about your headline as a formula. So let me show you mine. This is my profile. My name, my image, and like I said, I'm not formal. I'm not in a suit and tie. One of the things that I want to come off as is casual, but yet professional. So I'm just in a white button up. Smiling is not, something that I super love doing, but I tried. I smirked. I at least smirked. Okay, but let's look at the headline. I have here Director of Product Design at NYC and Company, in which case some of you would put UX student. I have here some keywords, but I also have here, more importantly, what I want to be searched as, which is in the context of inclusive design, GovTech, civic design. For this middle section, I encourage y'all to put what you're focusing on as a UX designer. Maybe you're passionate about design systems. Maybe you're passionate about accessibility. Maybe you're passionate about, prototyping, UX research, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you have multiple things. So feel free to use these bars. I wouldn't use the bars between the pipes between every concept, every idea. I would group the ideas by maybe, let's say, industries or specializations and things like that. Okay, so that's that. Let's keep going because we're running out of, we're already over time. Your about section. So keep in mind with your about section that it clips. So your about section isn't open, it's condensed. So you want to make sure that you keep that in mind. So here we have the perfect amount and then nothing is cut off. So make sure you keep that in mind. So that is why I encourage everybody to put their story in a sentence at the top, because it should be a sentence or two. And then your entire bio can be once you expand, so that it's not clipped or something. Also, in the hiring manager view internally, it also does the same thing. So you can keep that in mind in case you want to, set something up properly. Okay, so that is the about section. I also encourage you to think about keywords in your about section. So what I like to do is I like to go to the job descriptions that I hope to apply to, that represent jobs that I hope to apply to. And then what I do is I dump them all here and find the keywords. And then I try to incorporate some of those keywords in my about section. And that website is called wordclouds.com. It's not very fancy. All right, the experience section, the same thing, using that tool. So here, down here in my experience section, I don't have much written here. I'm obviously at a different point in my career, but I would use these sections to include keywords that you want to be searched for. Okay. Your skills and endorsement sections are super, super important. So your skills sections, make sure you write out all of the skills that you want to be searched for. Again, this is boosting the algorithms. These are important data points. Don't just add any and all skills. Make sure they are actually skills, one, that you have, and also that you want to be known for. Also, for your skills, pin the 3 that you want to be super known for at the top. I condensed it. Let me show less. So you see here how it only shows 3. Make sure you pin 3 at the top so that they really stand out. Also, I read somewhere that the 3 pinned at the top, in the algorithm, LinkedIn is prioritizing them when determining how you're going to come up in search results when you are searched through these terms. Okay. Recommendations, the same thing. Just make sure you have some recommendations here. I love to give recommendations. If I know you, reach out to me. I'll give you a recommendation. Featured section. This is a super, 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 super key thing that I feel most people underutilize. This featured section is a great place where you can feature things that you want people to see. Maybe it's your portfolio, maybe it's a specific case study, maybe it's an article that you wrote, maybe it's something else. So here I have listed my latest initiative. It's really there, front and center. My personal website, it's there, front and center, et cetera, et cetera. Texting me, I'm in a different place in my career. I want to help people. So the text functionality is right there. And I used Pixie, a website, pixie.co, to come up with those thumbnails to give the links a unique thumbnail so that they all look really nice and visual like this. Okay. The education section, make sure you include your boot camp. Don't be shy about it. And then some networking tips. So one key networking tip that I want to throw at you right now really quickly. So, oh my God, Jacob, I can't believe we're not connected. I want to connect with Jacob because as a speaker, I want to potentially, not potentially, I definitely want to put myself in a position where I can connect with somebody that can potentially, ask me or invite me to be a speaker. So I'm going to click on connect, but I'm not going to click send. I'm going to click on add a note. Hey, Jacob, I blah, blah. Can you blah, blah? I appreciate it. Looking forward to being connected, and then send. So hopefully, fingers crossed, but I really hope that Jacob accepts my invitation. Okay, now content tips. This is the most important part of this section. So the hashtags. I want to show you some of the posts that I have developed. Where is it? Some of the posts that I have created. So let's go here. So let me go to all activity. So some of my posts, let's see. So this is a pretty good post. It got almost 3,000 views, 2,700. And now let's open this up. Look at all of these hashtags. These are important. No longer from this point on, post on LinkedIn without utilizing these hashtags. They are important. If I compare when I post without hashtags and when I can post with hashtags, it's day and night. For LinkedIn, this is part of what's feeding that organic traffic, these hashtags. So make sure you use hashtags. And I'm using all the possible hashtags that relate to UX. UX, UXD, UX design, UX designer, UX designers, user experience design, user experience designer. You get the point. Okay, let's keep going. Don't just link, introduce and link. So when you have posts here where you're linking somewhere, let's see, where am I linking? This video, I'm not just posting the video, I am introducing the video. These words count to the algorithm. So make sure whenever you post the blog post that you're posting for Medium, that you write words, not just linking to it and not saying anything else. Or even here, I have a reshare and I'm still including a bunch of words. All of these words are working in my favor. So make sure you do so. Okay, cool. Let's keep it going. Tag people and organizations. Many of my students use me and they tag me all the time because when they tag me, everyone that I'm connected with on their feeds, they will see Miguel M was tagged by blah, 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 blah. So tag people, organizations, of course, do it with taste, but this is really, really helpful. So there's that. And let's keep going here. Comment on other content. This is so highly underused. Don't just be don't just ask, also give comments, engage with other people's content. Because for example, if one of my students comments on one of my posts, now some people that I'm connected with will see, that comment potentially. Maybe some of the hiring managers that I'm connected with will see that content. So it's really valuable to engage with other people's content. Engage with, people that you really respect and admire and potentially want to connect with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, posting often is the name of the game, specifically consistency. So that is a really, really brief overview of best practices. I do want to give the stage now. I know we're super over time. Jacob is never going to invite me back again because I went over time. So if everyone here is okay with going over time, show some love so that Jacob can invite me back. But I have a special surprise for y'all. So all of this was fine and dandy, I hope. So I hope all of this was enjoyable and was of value. But right now, it's just talk. Right now, you're just believing me. I want to show you that this works, that this actually works. So I want to introduce one of my students, one of my former students. Her name is Katie. She's actually a student of mine here at Career Foundry. She finished the program, and she is now a UX designer on the hunt, just like everyone else. And she is super, super talented and awesome. But she has leveraged these tips, and I want her to tell her story. So Katie, please come on, and I want you to share your story. Then I'll come back just to close it up and answer any questions. And then we'll go from there. So Katie, are you still there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hey, yep.
Okay, sweet. Thank you for the intro, Miguel. Not a ton to add. I graduated from Career Foundry, was lucky enough to have Miguel as my mentor. I have been a part of so many of these webinars and watched them that have been hosted by Career Foundry. So very cool to be on one. Big thank you to Career Foundry and Miguel, of course, for letting me speak here. Yeah, I really just want to share proof that what Miguel is telling everyone to do actually works. About 6 months ago, I remember reaching out to Miguel asking, how can I stand out as a UX designer without a traditional design education and without actual work experience outside of the project that I had done with Career Foundry. And I could truly feel Miguel's energy and excitement through my computer when he was telling me about the importance of content. He told me to think about what I wanted to share, how I wanted to share it, and where I wanted to share it at as well. For someone who's considering becoming a content creator and already knows what format they want to do, I do think, again, it's really important to consider what platform you're most comfortable with and what type of strategy will really show off your skill sets and your knowledge. Being the type of person I am, the idea of a video series was really intimidating to me. So I just stuck with, a blog strategy and to start posting more consistently on LinkedIn. Consistently is a huge key there. The more consistent you are, the better engagement and the overall, the better process it will be in the end. So before I started posting anything, I created a content calendar because I was that student designer who was scared that they did not have enough to say or didn't know enough about design to actually add value. So while I was brainstorming ideas, I came to realize that I actually do have a lot to say, despite being so fresh in the industry. There's a ton of value you can add as a student, even with a non-design background. I think another important thing for designers who want to start creating content to decide, what is your ultimate goal before you even start at anything? What do you want the outcome to be from the content that you're sharing? I decided that I wanted to share my journey, not only to document it for myself, but to give current student and junior designers someone they can relate to on this crazy UX journey. And, potentially someone that they can learn from as well. Not to mention, of course, I wanted hiring managers and senior level designers to hopefully see my journey and see who I am as a designer, but also, as a person. Like I mentioned, I was looking for a way to stand out as a new designer in a competitive field. And I felt the best way for me to do this was to be vulnerable, show off my personality, share off some successes, but also failures, but more importantly, like what I learned from the failures. So my goal, again, was to share my journey, document my process, and maybe catch the eye of a hiring manager or two. I wasn't thinking about followers and new connections and engagement levels at all. Since I started creating content on LinkedIn, I've had such a huge amount of conversations with designers who have reached out to me because they've seen my content and wanted to learn more about my journey. And then was also asking me for advice regarding different elements in design. I've also been asked to work on different projects for visual design purposes, as well as acting as, somewhat of a UX consultant for a new startup. I've made some really solid relationships and friendships with designers from all over the world. And, of course, not to mention, was asked to speak on this really important webinar. And I wouldn't have had these opportunities if I wouldn't have started to create the content. More recently, Miguel kind of mentioned, I started my own 30-day flat design tutorial challenge because I knew that my weakest point was visual design. the purpose of this was truly just for me to grow my visual design skills in a challenge that I could hold myself accountable for. So I was sharing my posts or my designs on LinkedIn every day. And at the end, just compiled all of my resources into a single resource for other designers to tackle this challenge themselves if they wanted to. And now every time I log into LinkedIn, I see new people doing the challenge, which is just such a really cool thing to see you be a part of, like a movement almost, but to have an actual impact in the design community. So with all that being said, you know, I think the top impacts that I've had from creating content is one, my nonverbal communication has improved a lot because, you know, I was never much of a writer before doing this, but I've noticed my writing skills improving so much because I have started to write a blog. Two, my confidence has just grown substantially in the design field. I now feel like I have been able to add value to those in the field and can speak about design not only as more of an expert than I was 5 to 6 months ago, but to speak to design is a true passion that I have. And then 3, the relationships I built, the opportunities that have come my way since creating content is truly immeasurable. I love talking with junior and student designers and having the chance to learn from one another. It's also given me, you know, so many opportunities to connect with mid to senior level designers and even directors and managers. So, you know, in a world where we're always told it's all about who you know, especially when you're in the job search, doing what you can to grow your network and meet new people as soon as you can is truly, it's so important and also super rewarding. I guess to wrap it up, it would be a lost opportunity if I didn't plug my my professional socials. So please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out my blog site and also check out my other work, including the 30-day challenge if you want to give it a shot. It's at katiemead.com, my first and last name. I can share all of the links in the chat too, but thanks.
Thank you so much, Katie. I'm so proud of Katie. She did not only so wonderfully in the course, but with content. She's been absolutely kicking ass, and it's so fun for me to see one of my students really take off like Katie has, and it's so true. Every time I go on LinkedIn, I always see somebody tag Katie that they're doing her challenge. And I always screenshot it. I feel like every time I've seen it, probably, I've screenshotted it and I've sent it to Katie. And I'm like, yo, somebody else did your challenge. And she's probably sick of me doing that. But thank you so much, Katie. I really appreciate it. And all right, so I'm gonna just wrap it up here by saying, personal branding and content for new designers is not about followers and likes. It's about career and opportunity. It's not about how many people look at your stuff or how many views you get. It's about value. That being said, if you like what you heard today, definitely check me out on all social media platforms at Miguel Makes. It's super consistent everywhere. I think I'm trying to get like my Tyler the Creator on with Miguel Makes, but that is where what I refer to myself on social. Also on LinkedIn, of course, /in/Miguel Makes. And of course, don't forget to text me if you have any questions. If you're wondering about how to expand on this, I'm definitely game to help. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to stick around right now. I know we went 20 over. I'm so sorry. But I was just very excited to talk with y'all about this topic. There's so much to talk about. This could easily be a 2-hour seminar. But anyway, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miguel. That was very, very inspiring. I was taking notes as well, and I see a lot of people being very inspired by your and Katie's story as well. We have a few questions here in the Q&A panel, so I'm just gonna select a few. How do you feel about adding open network to your profile picture? You know, the hashtag.
I think that's fine. Again, I think that the main data point is your name, your headline, and your about, your bio. So I would just not include any of that there. Just use the toggle that LinkedIn offers you can use that in your picture as well. But just don't waste the really prime real estate of your headline, because that's a data point and you don't want to screw that up. Nobody is searching for, looking for an opportunity. They'll just toggle it on in the filter.
And how do you recommend people should answer the following question? Why did you change from your previous career to UX design?
Oh, I love this. Okay, so I'm gonna try so hard not to go off here, but I just get excited. So the key here is, and I see this all the time, somebody will say something like, so there I was in quarantine and I just saw this advertisement and I fell in love with UX. No, that is so bad. Or something like, you know, my friend told me about it, thought it was pretty cool, so I gave it a shot. No, what you want to do is you want to leverage your previous experience as preparation for UX. So you want to think about all the different ways that you can connect UX, your previous experience to UX, and then say that that was a part of your journey in getting you there. The more that you can draw that bridge and make it part of your narrative up front, the more you could even avoid it even being a question.
Nice. I have a really good question from Lee. What advice would you give to people who periodically suffer from imposter syndrome?
Okay, I have a really hot take on this, and I hope it doesn't offend anyone. I view, as a hiring manager, imposter syndrome one way, as a person another way. As a hiring manager, I really want to see potential. So I do think, or as a manager is what I meant to say, I want to see potential. So when somebody is struggling, maybe doesn't have a lot of experience, I think it's incumbent upon me as a manager to make sure that I'm providing the support. So when you're interviewing for places, know that they're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them. So make sure you only accept a role on a team with a manager that you can consider a mentor, especially if it's your first one. But as a person, I have a hot take for imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome is a strength. You never want to lose that sense of being a beginner in a field specifically like UX, because in UX, it is about failure. It is about doubt. It is about finding all the ways that something won't work so that you have all the confidence in the world that that one solution will work. So the more that you have this little voice in your head questioning yourself, the more that you will hold yourself accountable to quality in UX. So if we view imposter syndrome as more as an accountability mechanism, more as we just want to make sure we put out a great product, the less it'll be felt by us as a negative thing, the less distraction thing it'll be, and the more that you can convert it into a strength.
Fantastic. Miguel, thank you so much once again. You're obviously invited for another webinar. No questions asked. So yeah, thanks again. And to everyone, if you have any questions about one of our programs, please book a call with one of our program advisors. They will be happy to answer any of your questions. And with that, I wish you a good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you're watching from. And yeah, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it, Jacob. Appreciate it, Career Foundry. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And it was a great honor to be here. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.